So Oregon Measure 114's firearms purchase permit was just blocked once again from going into effect, and also their magazine ban appears to be next. So let's talk about this. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is TacPack. TacPack is a subscription-based box that delivers tactical and EDC gear to your door every single month. And right now, TacPack is doing something really cool for all of my viewers. If you use the code ARMED during this month of December, you will receive a free second standard TacPack with your order, and that one will ship immediately. So if you're interested, I will leave a link to TacPack down below in the description section and in the pinned comment. And don't forget to use that code ARMED to get that free gift. How's it going, everyone? My name is Anthony Miranda. I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California with an emphasis on Second Amendment rights. I've been part of Second Amendment litigation both at a state level and a national level while serving as a staff attorney with the Firearms Policy Coalition legal team. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, I have some important updates for you on the lawsuits which are challenging Oregon Measure 114, which is a ban on the purchase and possession of magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, and also a law which requires that people get a firearms purchase permit to be able to purchase firearms within the state of Oregon. The case we're going to be talking about in this video is called Arnold v. Brown. The Arnold case is a state lawsuit filed by the Gun Owners of America, GOA, and it challenges those various aspects of Measure 114 and challenges them as a violation of the Oregon state constitution. The last time we talked about the Arnold case, it was because the judge in that case granted a temporary restraining order, which blocked the permitting law and the magazine ban from going into effect on December 8th. That TRO was originally only in place for a short time period and was only going to be in place until a hearing could actually take place, which was on December 13th. Well, that hearing took place and some important developments have come out of that hearing, which you all need to be informed about. Now, for those not familiar with Oregon Measure 114, let me explain generally what this does. It's not going to be into all the nuances and nitty gritty of that measure. If you're interested in that, go watch one of my prior videos. Measure 114 will first require that anyone purchasing a firearm must obtain a permit to purchase. To obtain that permit to purchase, the resident will need to completely do a safety training course, go through a background check, get fingerprinted, show a valid ID, and also after all of that, then they will be granted the permit to purchase as long as they pay a fee. Under Measure 114, it will generally be unlawful for you to buy, sell, or transfer any firearms to anyone unless that person has a permit to purchase. And you will also have to go through a background check for all these transactions. That would also apply to all private party transfers as well, even those which take place at gun shows. If you are granted the permit to purchase, the permit is valid only for 5 years, and after the 5 years, you will need to renew the permit and it will cost you up to $50. Now, under Measure 114, it would not be illegal to own a gun without a permit, but permits are going to be required for any future purchases of any new firearms. However, Measure 114 did not stop with just creating a permit to purchase. The second significant thing that Measure 114 does is it will ban the sale, purchase, transfer, and possession of any so-called large capacity magazines after the effective date of the measure. A violation of this measure will be a Class A misdemeanor, which is punishable of up to 364 days in jail and or a fine of $6,250. This magazine ban applies to any magazine that can also be readily converted to accept more than 10 rounds. Now, one of the major issues with Measure 114 and this whole permitting scheme is that once it was set to go into effect on December 8th, it would have become next to impossible for anyone to even be able to get a permit to purchase. As written under Measure 114, the process to acquire a permit and even the application process was not in place at all. That is because there was no structure to support the processing of permits, and even worse, the Oregon State Police had not even created and still has not created an application which people can even apply for a permit to purchase. In fact, the Attorney General of the state of Oregon sent out a letter to the judge in one of the cases and all other judges, and even conceded that the state of Oregon will not be able to properly implement the permitting scheme which is required under Measure 114. This then led to the federal court judge in one of the cases putting a temporary halt on the permitting scheme, and that judge in that federal case decided to halt the enforcement of the permitting process for at least 30 days. But then there was another judge, a Harney County Circuit Court Judge, Robert Braccio, in this Arnold case, which we're going to talk about, who did grant an outright TRO, halting the permitting scheme and also the ban on magazines, and halted those both from going into effect on December 8th. Then the state of Oregon requested that the state Supreme Court overturn that decision, but in a really surprising turn of events, the Supreme Court of Oregon denied the state's request. Now, that really could have been because the TRO was only going to be in effect and in place for a short period of time, because there was going to be a December 13th hearing before that judge, that same judge, Judge Ruscio, or Ratio, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. So since there was going to be a preliminary injunction hearing and a hearing on all this, the state Supreme Court likely didn't want to get involved at this point. Now, whether or not they will maintain that position is yet to be seen. They could actually jump into this once there is more significant developments, like a granting of a preliminary injunction. But like I said, there was a December 13th hearing before that same judge, Judge Ruscio, and he, in fact, at that hearing upheld his order to temporarily restrain the permitting scheme from going into effect. Now, also at the hearing, there was a ton of discussion about the state's ban on so-called large capacity magazines. Judge Ruscio did not rule on that issue at the hearing, but instead he heard all the arguments by the plaintiffs and the defendants and said he would issue a decision no later than this Friday at 5 p.m. And actually, as I was wrapping up this video, I just got a text with the order from the Judge Ruscio on this issue of whether or not he's going to grant the halt on the magazine ban and kind of what he was going to do in this case. So I'm just going to read the conclusion. I might do something later that's a little bit more in depth. But essentially what the order reads, the conclusion part, it says that he is going to continue the temporary restraining order on the ballot measure 114 as to the permit to purchase until the state of Oregon can actually prove that they have something in place, something that is administratively ready to actually implement their permit to purchase. And then at that point, he will set a hearing for a preliminary injunction on that aspect, the permit to purchase. Then he said that he was going to actually order and grant a preliminary injunction against the enforcement of the magazine ban and that restriction. It states that the court orders a preliminary injunction is granted as to ballot measure 114 sections 11 until a full hearing on the complaint can be heard, where the court can determine by clear and convincing evidence whether the 114 section 11 is constitutional under Article 1 section 27. So that is the magazine aspect. So he is actually granting a preliminary injunction against the enforcement of that magazine ban. That is a huge win. He's granting the preliminary injunction as to the magazine ban. He's holding off the determination on the preliminary injunction for the permit to purchase. He's extending the TRO and essentially saying, I'm not even going to address the preliminary injunction as to the permit to purchase because the state of Oregon, you have not even proved that you can put anything in place at this point. So I'm not even going to address the preliminary injunction hearing until you actually get something in place. And then at that point, he's going to address that. But until then, a TRO is issued against the permit to purchase. So right now, essentially, the aspects of Measure 114 are on halt and it will not go into effect. Now, also I want to throw in something else that's a little bit related, but one of these things that's kind of a housekeeping thing that I want to mention. Many of my followers on various videos have been asking me what happened in the California magazine ban hearing and the assault weapons hearing and the ammo day ruling and hearing, because a lot of you are familiar that Judge Benitez was hearing a bunch of these cases, the state magazine ban, the assault weapons ban, the ammo restriction, and he had a hearing at the beginning of this week. What ended up happening at the hearing was that Judge Benitez gave the state of California 30 days to present a spreadsheet of enacted laws and regulations which relate to the cases at hand. Then the plaintiffs had 30 days to rebut those, and then there will be 10 days more for a reply brief and reply papers to be submitted. So essentially, those cases will remain in a queue essentially for another 70 days. The state of California wanted even longer, but ultimately Judge Benitez only gave them 30 days to come up with the additional evidence to support the restrictions in the state of California. And for those asking why Judge Benitez likely did this, it really could just be simply because he wants to mitigate some appeals issues, mitigate some of the procedural issues that maybe the state of California will try to raise on appeal. So that's what happened in Oregon with Measure 114. That's where it currently stands. And again, briefly, that's what happened in the state of California with those three major cases that a lot of you are asking me. If anything else develops, I will definitely let you all know. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation is built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.